Everyone wants freedom, but nobody wants to pay for it. You want comfort now and success later. Life doesn't work like that. Every shortcut you take today becomes a chain tomorrow. The question isn't what do you want, it's what are you willing to give up. Freedom is not free, and it never has been. It's bought with early mornings, lonely nights, and choices most people are too weak to make. While others are chasing comfort, excuses, and applause, freedom is built quietly through discipline, pain, and sacrifice. This is about delaying pleasure so you can own your life later. About saying no now so you don't live trap later. Every hour you waste, every excuse you protect, every comfort you cling to is stealing from your future. If you're tired of being controlled by money, fear, opinions, or circumstances, understand this clearly. Freedom demands payment up front, and the bill is due today. They told you comfort was the reward. They lied. They told you peace comes from taking it easy. They were wrong, because the truth is, comfort is not rest. Comfort is sedation, and while you're asleep in comfort, life is passing you by wide awake. Comfort feels harmless. That's why it's dangerous. It doesn't attack you loudly. It whispers, just one more hour. Just take today off. You deserve this. And before you know it, days turn into years and potential turns into regret. Comfort doesn't ruin lives overnight. It slowly puts them on pause. See, comfort is the most expensive addiction because it costs you everything you'll never become. It costs you the discipline you didn't build, the courage you didn't develop, the strength you never unlocked. And the scariest part, you don't feel the cost until it's too late. I've seen people with talent buried under soft pillows. I've seen dreams die on comfortable couches. I've seen greatness postponed because comfort said, not today. And you listened. Comfort makes you feel safe, but safety is not freedom. Safety keeps you managed, controlled, predictable. Freedom requires discomfort. Growth requires pressure. Transformation requires pain. You don't grow when it's easy. You grow when you're stretched. You grow when you're tired, but still show up. You grow when your body says stop, but your purpose says move. Comfort trains you to quit early, to avoid struggle, to run from resistance. But resistance is the receipt for freedom. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you are making a trade. And whether you admit it or not, you're trading long-term freedom for short-term relief. You're trading who you could be for who you are right now. And right now might feel okay, but okay is the enemy of destiny. Comfort keeps you dependent on moods, dependent on motivation, dependent on other people's approval. But discipline makes you dangerous. Discipline gives you options. Discipline gives you leverage. Comfort says, wait until you feel like it. Discipline says, do it anyway. And the people who win, they don't feel ready. They don't feel inspired. They feel committed. Let me tell you something hard, but real. Your comfort zone doesn't love you. It doesn't care about your future. It doesn't care about your family, your calling, or your impact. It only wants you still, and stillness without purpose turns into stagnation. You say you want more, but your daily choices say you want easy. You say you want freedom, but your habits say you want convenience, and life doesn't reward intentions. It rewards alignment. You can't pray for freedom and sleep through responsibility. You can't ask for abundance and avoid effort. You can't want a different life while repeating the same comfortable routines. At some point, you have to decide, will I be uncomfortable now or unfulfilled forever? Because comfort delays pain, but discipline deletes regret. The truth is, the road to freedom is narrow, lonely, and uphill. There are no crowds there, no applause, no shortcuts, just you, your discipline, and your decision to keep going when quitting feels reasonable. Comfort will always offer you an exit ramp. Discipline will force you to stay the course. And here's the spiritual truth most people avoid. What you tolerate today becomes what you worship tomorrow. If you tolerate comfort, you'll bow to it. If you tolerate weakness, you'll live under it. But when you choose discomfort with purpose, something shifts. Your mind sharpens. Your standards rise. Your identity strengthens. You stop asking, how do I feel? And start asking, what must be done? That's when freedom starts forming. Quietly, invisibly, while others are resting, you're building. While others are numbing themselves, you're sharpening yourself. Comfort wants to keep you where you are. Freedom demands you leave. So don't ask if it's hard. Ask if it's worth staying stuck. You keep asking for freedom, but you haven't put anything down for it yet. You want the keys, but you don't want the contract. You want the life, but you don't want the lifestyle. And life doesn't give freedom on credit. It requires a down payment. Discipline is that payment, not motivation, not feelings, not hype. Discipline, the quiet decision to do what must be done, even when everything inside you says don't. See, freedom isn't a gift. It's a purchase, and discipline is the currency. Most people think discipline is punishment. They see it as restriction, pressure, pain. But discipline isn't there to trap you, it's there to train you. It's not there to take from you. It's there to prepare you. Because the truth is, freedom in the hands of an undisciplined person becomes destruction. You don't need more freedom. You need more control. Control over your mornings, control over your habits, control over your reactions, control over your excuses. Because if you can't control yourself, something else will. People will. Circumstances will. Money will. Fear will. And you'll call it life when really it's a lack of discipline. Discipline is waking up before the world needs you. Discipline is showing up when no one is clapping. Discipline is doing the work when the results are invisible. It's easy to be consistent when things are going well, but discipline shows up when it's quiet, when it's lonely, when it's boring, when it's hard. That's why so few people have freedom, because discipline doesn't feel good at first. It doesn't reward you immediately. It asks for obedience before it gives you options. And here's the hard truth: the life you want is on the other side of habits you keep avoiding. Every disciplined action is a brick. One early morning, brick. One workout, brick. One focused hour, brick. One hard decision, brick. And one day, you wake up and realize you've built leverage. You've built options. You've built freedom. But nobody sees it while you're building. That's why most people quit. They want freedom with witnesses. Discipline builds in silence. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It cares who you're becoming. There will be days you're tired. Discipline says move. Days you're discouraged. Discipline says stand. Days you're doubting. Discipline says trust the process. Because discipline understands something emotions never will: consistency compounds. You don't become free from one big decision. You become free from thousands of small disciplined ones. That's why discipline comes first, always, before money, before confidence, before success. Freedom is the reward for self-mastery. And let me be clear, discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. Committed to standards higher than your moods. Committed to a future bigger than your comfort. Committed to doing what's necessary, not what's convenient. Most people want freedom from responsibility, but real freedom comes from embracing it. The disciplined person can say no, so later they can say yes. The disciplined person can endure pressure, so later they can live in peace. The disciplined person sacrifices now, so later they choose their life. You don't rise to freedom, you earn it. And every time you skip the work, you delay the reward. Every time you lie to yourself, you push freedom further away. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you stay dependent. But when you decide, truly decide, to live discipline, something changes. Your walk changes. Your focus changes. Your standards change. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop asking permission, because discipline teaches you this: you don't need perfect conditions to make progress. You need obedience to the process. Freedom doesn't come when life gets easier. It comes when you get stronger. So pay the price, not once, not sometimes, daily. Because discipline today is buying you a tomorrow where you don't have to ask, beg, or settle. And one day, when you're standing in a life you earned, you'll realize discipline didn't take your freedom. Everybody wants to dream. Very few want to sacrifice. Everybody can see the vision in their head, but not everybody is willing to bleed for it in real life. And that's the line. That's the divider. That's where the road splits between people who talk about what they're going to do and people who actually own their future. Dreamers imagine, owners invest, and the currency is sacrifice. See, dreamers love the feeling of hope. They love the excitement of possibility. They love saying, one day. But owners understand something deeper: one day costs today. And if you're not willing to pay today, you're not getting tomorrow. Sacrifice is uncomfortable. That's why it works. It demands you give up what feels good for what matters most. It asks you to let go of ease so you can grab hold of purpose. Dreamers ask, what if it doesn't work? Owners ask, what if I don't try? Dreamers protect their comfort. Owners protect their commitment. And let me be clear, sacrifice is not about being reckless. It's about being intentional. It's about saying no to distractions so you can say yes to destiny. It's about choosing long nights, early mornings, and lonely roads, not because you like pain, but because you respect your calling. I've seen people with notebooks full of dreams and empty hands when it comes to effort. I've seen people talk about greatness, but refuse to change their schedule, their circle, or their standards. They want the crown without the cross, the harvest without the seed, the reward without the risk. But life doesn't respond to words. Life responds to work. Sacrifice means you don't get to keep everything. You don't get to keep the same habits, the same friends, the same excuses, and still expect a different future. Something has to go. And the people who win, they understand this early. They let go before life forces them to. They sacrifice sleep when others are resting. They sacrifice approval when others are pleasing. They sacrifice comfort when others are coasting. Not forever, but long enough, because sacrifice isn't about losing. It's about trading. Trading entertainment for education. Trading ease for excellence. Trading now for later. And here's the hard truth nobody likes to say out loud. If your dream doesn't cost you anything, it's probably not big enough. Big dreams demand big decisions. Big futures demand big sacrifices. You can't build something extraordinary with ordinary effort. And the moment you decide to own your life, to really own it, you stop asking for permission to suffer for what you believe in. Owners don't wait for perfect timing. Owners don't wait for confidence. Owners move with conviction even when fear is loud, because sacrifice builds credibility with yourself. Every time you show up when it's hard, you trust yourself more. Every time you give up comfort for purpose, your identity strengthens. You stop seeing yourself as someone who opes and start seeing yourself as someone who handles business. That's ownership. Dreamers quit when it gets inconvenient. Owners dig deeper. Dreamers need applause. Owners need progress. And yes, it's lonely. Sacrifice always is. There will be moments when you look around and wonder why nobody understands you, why you're working while others are relaxing, why you're building while others are consuming. But understand this, loneliness is often the sound of separation. Separation between average and exceptional, between talk and action, between dreamers and owners. Sacrifice will test you. It will ask, how bad do you really want it? And you answer, not with words, but with consistency. Owners don't sacrifice once. They sacrifice daily. They show up when motivation is gone. They stay committed when results are slow. They keep giving when it feels like nothing is coming back. And that's when the shift happens. One day, the discipline compounds, the skills stack, the results show, and suddenly, what looked like suffering becomes freedom. The dreamers will call you lucky. They'll say it happened overnight. They'll admire what you have without acknowledging what you gave up. But you'll know the truth. You paid for this life. You earned this position. You own every step of the process. So decide right now what side you're on, because dreaming is easy, talking is easy, wishing is easy, ownership is costly. And the price is sacrifice paid in advance. You can't carry everything and still move forward. At some point, the weight you're holding becomes the reason you're stuck. And the future you're praying for is waiting on you to let go. Your future is built on what you're willing to give up, not what you're willing to talk about, not what you're willing to post, what you're willing to release. Because elevation requires separation. Everybody wants growth, but nobody wants the pruning. Everybody wants increase, but nobody wants the cutting. But hear this clearly, nothing grows without something being removed. And if you refuse to let go voluntarily, life will do it for you, and it will hurt worse. Some of you are holding on to habits that no longer fit who you're trying to become. You keep calling them normal, but they're stealing your focus. You keep calling them small, but they're shaping your future. Every habit you tolerate is a vote for the life you're building. And then there are people you've outgrown. People who knew the old you and want to keep you there. People who drain your energy, question your vision, and normalize your excuses. You don't need everyone to go with you. You just need to go. Letting go doesn't make you cold. It makes you committed. See, the past has a strong grip because it's familiar. Even when it's painful, it feels safe. But familiar is not faithful to your future. Familiar will keep you repeating cycles while calling it loyalty. You can't move forward while negotiating with what's holding you back. Some of you are asking for more time, more clarity, more confidence, but the real issue is you're carrying too much old guilt, old failures, old identities, old labels that don't belong to you anymore. You're trying to run your race with extra weight, and every extra pound slows you down. There comes a moment in every serious life where you have to ask yourself a hard question. Is this thing helping me become who I need to be, or is it helping me stay who I used to be? Because growth demands honesty. You say you want a different future, but you're protecting the same routines. You say you want elevation, but you're afraid of isolation. You say you want freedom, but you're still loyal to chains. Letting go feels like loss in the moment, but it's actually alignment. You don't lose what was meant to leave. You release what can't go where you're going. And yes, it hurts. Letting go always hurts before it heals. It hurts to walk away from comfort. It hurts to disappoint people. It hurts to admit that something you loved is no longer serving you. But what hurts more is staying the same and calling it patience. Some of you are tired, not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing too much of what doesn't matter. You're investing energy in things that give you no return. And every day you delay letting go, your future pays the price. You don't need more motivation. You need subtraction. Subtraction of distractions, subtraction of excuses, subtraction of emotional baggage. Because when you let go, you make room for focus, room for discipline, room for purpose. Your hands can't receive what your fists refuse to release. And here's the spiritual truth. You can't step into a new season carrying old instructions. What worked before won't work now. Who you were before can't carry who you're becoming. Growth requires a funeral. Something has to die so something greater can live. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Strong people let go. Weak people hold on until it destroys them. And when you finally decide to release, something shifts. Your walk gets lighter. Your vision gets clearer. Your decisions get sharper. You stop explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for growth. You stop asking permission to change. Because you realize you're responsible for your future, not your past, not other people's expectations, not yesterday's version of yourself, your future. And it's watching what you're willing to give up today. So drop the weight, cut the ties, end the excuses, not because it's easy, but because staying stuck is harder. Let go, not in anger, but in purpose. Let go, not in fear, but in faith. Let go, not because you fail, but because you're moving forward. Because the future you want is lighter than the life you're holding on to. Nobody plans to regret their life. Nobody wakes up and says, one day, I want to look back and wish I had tried. But regret doesn't come from one big failure. It comes from thousands of small retreats. And that's why temporary pain beats permanent regret every single time. Pain has an expiration date. Regret does not. Pain says, this is hard right now. Regret says, this could have been different forever. And too many people are choosing comfort today, not realizing they are signing a long-term contract with regret tomorrow. Temporary pain looks like early mornings when your body wants rest. It looks like discipline when your emotions want escape. It looks like being misunderstood, overlooked, and underestimated. But permanent regret, that looks like wondering what you could have been. That looks like watching others live the life you were called to live. That looks like explaining away your potential with excuses instead of evidence. Pain challenges you. Regret haunts you. Pain demands effort. Regret demands explanation. You don't grow without pain. Growth stretches you. It exposes your weakness. It forces you to confront who you are versus who you say you want to be. That discomfort isn't punishment, it's preparation. But regret comes from avoidance, from choosing easy when hard was necessary, from saying later until later never comes. Most people don't fear pain. They fear pain with purpose. They'll accept pain from staying broke, staying stuck, staying unhealthy, staying average. But they resist pain that leads to growth, pain that demands responsibility, pain that requires change. And that's backwards, because pain with purpose builds strength. Pain without purpose builds bitterness. Let me tell you something real. Every successful person you admire paid in pain up front so they wouldn't pay in regret later. They failed publicly. They struggled privately. They endured seasons where nothing made sense except the decision to keep going. They chose pain on purpose. Temporary pain says, I'll push now so I don't suffer later. Permanent regret says, I avoided pain and paid for it with my future. And here's the truth that doesn't get said enough. Regret is heavier than pain. Pain is physical. Regret is spiritual. Pain hits your body. Regret hits your identity. Regret whispers at night. Regret shows up in silence. Regret asks questions pain never does. What if? Why didn't you? Who would you be right now if you hadn't quit? Pain doesn't ask questions. It builds answers. You don't regret working hard. You regret not trying. You don't regret discipline. You regret wasted time. Temporary pain teaches you resilience. It sharpens your character. It forces you to rise to your calling. And once it's done, it leaves you stronger than it found you. But regret settles in. It unpacks. It makes itself comfortable. And it grows louder the longer you ignore it. That's why you must learn to endure now. Endure the doubt. Endure the pressure. Endure the loneliness. Endure the process. Because endurance today protects you from explanation tomorrow. Some of you are tired, not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing too little of what actually matters. You're exhausted from avoiding the very pain that would free you. You're afraid to fail, but failure teaches. You're afraid to struggle, but struggle strengthens. You're afraid to be uncomfortable, but discomfort transforms. The pain you avoid today becomes the regret you carry tomorrow. And understand this, temporary pain has a purpose, but permanent regret has no payoff. Pain eventually ends. Regret just replays over and over, scene by scene, decision by decision. So when it hurts, stay. When it's heavy, stand. When quitting feels reasonable, remember the cost. Pain will say, you're growing. Regret will say, you settled. And settling is the slow death of destiny. Your future self is watching you right now, watching every choice, watching every excuse, watching every moment you choose comfort over courage. And one day, that future version of you will either say, thank you for not giving up, or why didn't you fight harder? That choice is made today. So embrace the pain, respect the struggle, honor the process. Because the pain you feel now is temporary, but the life you're building will last. And freedom belongs to those who were brave enough to hurt for it. So they never had most people quit right before it changes, right before it breaks open, right before the reward shows up. And not because they weren't capable, but because they got tired of waiting. Freedom does not rush. Freedom does not beg. Freedom does not respond to impatience. Freedom responds to endurance. See, comfort wants everything now, results now, validation now, proof now. And when it doesn't show up fast enough, comfort starts negotiating. Maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you should slow down. Maybe you've done enough. That's how comfort sounds right before it robs you. Freedom, on the other hand, is quiet. It watches. It waits. It measures how long you can stay committed when nothing is happening. Because patience isn't passive. It's pressure under control. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack patience. They plant the seed, dig it up to check on it, then wonder why nothing grows. Freedom rewards the patient because patience proves belief. Anyone can believe when results are visible. But patience believes when it's dark, when it's silent, when the only evidence you have is the work you keep doing. Comfort quits when the wait gets uncomfortable. Patience leans in. Comfort says, it's taking too long. Patience says, it's taking exactly what it takes. And here's the truth nobody likes to face. Freedom always comes last. Not first, not early. Last, after the discipline, after the sacrifice, after the lonely seasons, after the moments where you wondered if it was worth it. That's why so few people reach it. Comfort wants shortcuts. Freedom demands seasons. Comfort wants progress without pressure. Freedom requires pressure to shape you. You think the delay is punishment, but the delay is preparation. Because if freedom came too early, it would destroy you. You'd misuse it, waste it, lose it. So freedom waits until you're strong enough to handle it. Patience is what builds that strength. Every day you stay disciplined without applause, patience is forming. Every week you stay focused without results, patience is forming. Every month you stay committed without clarity, patience is forming. And that patience becomes power. Comfort hates this part. Comfort wants you to feel good now. Even if it costs you later, it convinces you to stop showing up because the progress isn't fast enough, not flashy enough, not easy enough. But comfort never tells you the price. Comfort punishes you slowly. It punishes you with stagnation, with dependence, with almost successful, almost disciplined, almost free, and almost is a painful place to live. The patient person understands something deep. Time is not the enemy. Quitting is. Waiting doesn't weaken you. Inconsistency does. The delay doesn't stop freedom. Comfort does. Patience says, I will outlast the process. Comfort says, I'm tired of the process. And life rewards whoever stays. Stay when it's boring. Stay when it's quiet. Stay when nobody's calling your name. Stay when you're questioning yourself. Because patience keeps showing up long after comfort has walked away. And one day, without warning, the work connects. The habits click, the opportunities open, and people will call it sudden. They'll call it luck. They'll call it an overnight success. But you'll know it was patience. You stayed when it didn't make sense. You worked when it didn't pay. You believed when it didn't look promising. Freedom recognized that. Comfort never survives the long road. That's why it gets punished. Comfort leaves you dependent on motivation, circumstances, and approval. It makes you fragile, and fragile people can't handle freedom. Freedom belongs to those who can wait without weakening, those who don't need instant gratification to stay committed, those who don't panic in the delay, those who understand that becoming takes time. If you're in a season where nothing is moving, don't rush. If you're in a season where results are slow, don't retreat. If you're in a season where comfort is calling your name, don't answer. This is the test, not of talent, not of intelligence, of patience. Because freedom is watching how you move when nothing is happening. And when the patient finally receive freedom, they don't waste it. They respect it. They protect it. They know what it costs. So stay uncomfortable, stay disciplined, stay patient. because comfort gets punished with regret, but patience gets rewarded with freedom.